side, Sting's Squadron. Has Sting managed to recruit the athletic talent needed to win this grueling war? On the other side, Paulie's dangerous alliance. Is Paulie doomed to destruction? We'll find out as WCW presents WrestleWar 92.
Welcome to Last Match Standing, the podcast where we review, relive, and rank the 100 greatest wrestling matches of all time. As always, I'm Spencer.
This is Larry Zabisco.
And my head's way too close to the ceiling.
And today, we are coming to you from May 17th, 1992, from Jacksonville Memorial Coliseum in Jacksonville, Florida, for WCW WrestleWar 1992. It's Sting Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance, and it's WarGames.
Oh, man, WarGames.
WarGames!
So it's funny because, the last few years we've gotten WarGames back, but this is peak WarGames. So I think the best way to describe WarGames is it had three stages. It had Inception, Peak, and Trough. This is the peak.
So it all started when someone was having a dream inside a dream.
No. So WarGames started whenever Dusty Rhodes saw Mad Max 3.
Dusty Rhodes was having a dream about Mad Max.
He was having a dream about Mad Max in a cage with Ric Flair. So no. He saw Mad Max 3 and said, "Oh man, we should do a match like that." Hang on, I gotta do a Dusty Rhodes impression. Oh, baby, we gotta do a match like this with the whole Horsemen, baby. I don't know. That's not the best. That's like Steve Austin doing a Dusty Rhodes impression. Anyway,
yeah. Well, thanks so much to everyone who responded to our lightning poll.
Quick! That's fast.
Get it
round,
out.
Yeah.
We wanted to see, right, what matches are not in our matchbox yet? What matches have we just not covered on Last Match Standing that you think is one of the 100 greatest of all time?
Yeah, I think we have the next few matches sort of that we have in mind for the rest of the season. And so I think when we came out of the tag match from last week, the AAA tag match, that felt like we filled a hole, right? So it got us kind of thinking about what other gaps do we see in our list. So it was a really good time to do that, we thought. And a shout out to Brad, who recommended WarGames, which was something that we've had on our mind for a while. And by the way, we'll be hearing from Brad in just a little bit. So let's get to WarGames 1992. I guess what I should give us before we get to the build and all that fun stuff is, who was there? We should probably talk about who was on the teams, right?
Okay, so the Sting Squadron is led by the man called Sting. Mm-hmm. Flanking him is the wild card, Nikita Kolov. We've got Barry Windham, the natural Dustin Rhodes, and Ricky the Dragon Steamboat.
What a fucking team.
It's a Hall of Fame team right there.
I mean, Jesus. I remember watching, because I'm going back and watching the early 90s New Japan and WCW stuff right now. And I remember seeing this come up. And at this time period, Sting is probably the most over guy in wrestling history. I mean, it's just unbelievable how much people love Sting.
I mean, after you're led to the ring by RoboCop, you're going to be popular.
That's it.
That's
what
all
else can you do?
That's all it takes.
Yeah, Capital Combat.
Who else can say that? Nobody.
Triple H was led by the Terminator, so I mean, that was 25 years later.
And I mean, Dustin Rhodes, up and comer. I mean, he's just extremely exciting to watch, seeing him move the way he does when he's this age.
I think Dustin Rhodes is the only person in this entire match that is not in the Hall of Fame.
Yet.
Yeah.
Nikita Kolov. Nikita Kolov was returning here. So he had just recently came back, and there was this big question mark. And I remember seeing his interview whenever he sort of came back, and everyone was just like, what is this guy going to do? Is he actually going to align with Sting?
Well,
because we know this guy's history.
He was like one of Sting's biggest rivals.
Exactly.
Especially once we lost Ric Flair, like Nikita Kolov is like your top heel.
And so having him on Sting's Squadron was a bit of a question mark going into
it. It was a huge question mark, and it made for a really interesting story going into the match. And the way they played it out at first, in terms of the number of order, how they entered the match, I was a little confused. I thought like it wasn't the best order, but then once it played out in front of me, I thought, oh wait, no, they did it really, really well.
Oh yeah, there's a reason why Nikita Kolov comes in last.
yeah, we'll get there. On the other side, right, it's a 10-man match. Is this our second 10-man match?
Yeah, it is.
If you include Canadian Stampede.
3 of these men were in Canadian Stampede.
Paul, who was part of the Dangerous Alliance?
Okay, so the Dangerous Alliance, headed up by Mr. Paulie Dangerously. They are flanked by the lovely Medusa, also known as Linda Blaze. The lineup stands as Stunning Steve Austin.
What a great head of hair.
Larry Zabisco, Ravishing Rick Rude, Bobby Eaton, and the glue, the foundation for this team, the Enforcer, Arn Anderson. And I say the foundation because the Dangerous Alliance was basically we don't have Ric Flair. We need a top heel stable. Well, I got it. Give that kid Heyman. Give him 5 guys.
This is the thing with Arn Anderson and Barry Windham in this match. War Games was created for the 4 Horsemen. The 4 Horsemen, the biggest thing in pro wrestling in the early 90s, okay?
You also got to remember, on 2 separate occasions, they were teammates inside War Games, and now they're opponents inside War Games.
Don't even get me started.
Yeah,
so
you remember that.
Barry Windham's singles run right here around this time was fun to watch.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy was just taking because Flair was gone. Flair, it's 1992.
Yeah, he's WWF champion right now.
Flair's WWF champion. He's nowhere in there. And so somebody had to take the ball and run. And by God, if it wasn't going to be Barry Windham of the 4 Horsemen. I mean, yes, Sting was the top guy and all the fans wanted him, but Barry Windham made a name for himself.
Yeah, Barry Windham's like he's your workhorse. He could play heel, he could play babyface, he could do everything. I think Barry Windham is like one of the most underrated guys from this time. People talk very highly of him, but like I don't think Barry Windham ever gets like his due because he can do everything.
Absolutely agree.
So this is, and I just had this thought as we were kind of talking about his career, and tell me if I'm a little bit wrong here, but is Barry Windham, can you compare him to maybe a today Seth Rollins? Somebody who was not the top of the stable, but once that person stepped aside, he sort of took over as sort of he can do face, he can do heel, he can be the workhorse, he's going to be the guy that delivers consistently.
I don't think he had quite the amount of charisma that Seth has, but as far as like ring ability, oh yeah.
I just think it's interesting to think about because you think about the Shield and Roman is, whether we wanted it to be or not, was the head of that stable, right?
Well, I always thought before we leave the comparison to the Shield, like everybody knew when the Shield were like going to break up. Oh man, well Roman's going to be the guy. No one gave a fuck about Rollins. So the fact that he broke out and became the top guy first was a shock to everybody. But once he was on top, you're like, oh, that's why he's on top, because he can do it all.
Yeah, it's just a minor comparison. I don't think you can really dig too deep in it, but just from face value in terms of career trajectory, I don't hate it.
Yeah, it's a tough comparison because I feel like both of those teams are very unique and they told really, really unique stories.
Yeah, absolutely.
But going back to the 4 Horsemen, is the War Games was essentially put together to showcase the 4 Horsemen because you have
absolutely
4 guys. You have this faction of 4 guys, and you got to think in the 80s wasn't altogether something that you saw too much.
No, you saw it like once a year in WWF.
And so, how can you find creative ways to showcase this team that you have? Well, you put together one of the most brutal structures ever to be built in professional wrestling. At this time, I would go so far as to say it may have been.
I think it
Are you talking about the Punjabi prison?
How did you know?
I knew that's where you were going.
Read my mind.
Oh man, somewhere Batista's jumping from side to side.
The first ever War Games match took place at the Omni in Atlanta during NWA's Great American Bash in 1987, where it was known as War Games, the match beyond.
Will they keep that match beyond moniker?
I love that.
Oh man, the only thing I don't like about anytime we get a War Games match is they explain the rules for 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and we know the
have
rules.
to.
Well, since you brought it up, Mr. Gary Capetta gives us a 2-minute straight rundown of these rules. And I'm just going to tell you, do these sound convoluted to you or not? I'm just going to tell you, this is what they are. Number 1, there are 7 periods in War Games. The first period is 5 minutes. All other periods, 2 minutes. Rule 2, 1 man from each team during first period. Rule 3, after first period ends, head ref flips coin. Team winning the toss ends in second man.
You lost me.
I know, it's already stupid. But wait, there's 6 more.
There's 6
Number
more
4,
rules.
after second, in parentheses 2-on-1, period ends, other teams in second man, making War Games 2-on-2.
Okay, yeah, I got it.
Yeah.
They don't
Okay,
even
still
out it.
making sense. 5, after third period, team which won coin toss ends its third man. I don't know why we're still going here. I think we get the point.
Why are they still flipping the?
Okay,
they're not still flipping
they
the
flip
coin.
The coin
They're
to
not-
see
they flip
who
the coin
gets-
once.
The coin is flipped one time to get the man up advantage.
But
And then after
think
that,
of how crazy it would be if they flipped the coin every time.
I like it. You know
I
what
like
that
that.
adds? That adds a little bit
Well,
of
then it'd be
suspense.
like 5-on-1, and then like you know who's gonna win.
Suspense. Bring the game show to you.
Yeah, there you go.
Cheap plug there.
I understand why you would want to do the coin toss in front of the crowd so that it doesn't look like it was rigged ahead of time.
Yeah.
However, they can't see the damn coin anyway, so why does it matter?
Well, my thing is there's no need to explain how it goes. All you have to do is say, okay, 2 men start, they get 5 minutes. And then we'll flip a coin to see who gets the man-up advantage. Then
Okay.
every 2 minutes, an alternating member of each team will enter the ring. And then once all 10 men in the ring, the match beyond begins, and the first team to get pinfall or submission wins. That was 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I explained all the rules.
I'm just wondering. So it all comes down to a coin toss, which I agree. We can't even see the fucking coin.
Oh,
Why-
they don't do that in the future.
Why don't they do just like a baking competition or something?
I love baking.
Sami Zayn? Sami Zayn would support this idea, I guarantee it.
I'm just picturing Arn Anderson in an apron.
One thing I really like about this match is you don't get this very often. All 10 men come down to the ring together. That doesn't happen very often. And
Yeah.
in most War
That's a
Games
good point.
matches, everyone was in the backstage, and the big thing was like, the buzzer goes off, who's coming out?
Well, no,
who's coming out?
the way I remember War Games is that the teams were in a shark cage. Like each of the teams were in a cage. And so they would open the cage whenever the next team was ready to come out, and then they would send, or maybe that's how they do it in NXT.
That's how they do it in
what I'm
NXT.
thinking.
Yeah,
That's what I'm
they do it in
thinking.
NXT.
That's more recent. Because, like, the next year, I think it's either 94 or 95, whichever year it's like the Hulkamaniacs versus the Dungeon of Doom, they come down to the ring one at a time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, they have their big, oh, yeah, brother. Oh, give me the Hulkamaniacs. We drink a gallon of Agent Orange, dude. We're immune to pain. Come on, Mean Gene. We're going to beat that dungeon. And I'm going to get 5 minutes alone with a Taskmaster, dude. And then they come out one at a time when the buzzer goes off.
So we're talking about War Games. What makes War Games, right, different from say, just a cage match?
There's 2 rings and there's 10 men.
2 rings. Like, it's just unbelievable. Right. Well, I would say, first off, there's a roof, right?
Yes.
So
Yeah.
traditional
There's a roof
cage
in the
match,
cage.
there's not a roof. But we're not talking about the Hell in the Cell, right? It's absolutely nothing like that structure because, like Paul
That's a
said,
decade before Hell in a Cell.
like Paul said, there are 2 rings next to each other. So we're talking this cage is huge.
That's a 40 by 20 cage.
And the ceiling to this cage is not huge.
What, maybe 10 feet?
8, maybe? Like, it's right
It's like
there.
8 or 9, yeah.
Stipulation, tear each other apart for 20 minutes. And then
First team to get a fall wins.
after 20 minutes, and it's not just a fall, submit or surrender only.
Yeah,
It's fucking brutal. It's like an I Quit match.
pretty much.
Yeah, it's interesting, and I think by having that rule, it eliminates having to have a referee in the ring or one in each ring, right? Like it eliminates that, and so it makes it a little less confusing. And I think that's part of the reason why you put 2 rings next to each other, because 10 guys in one ring would be
is
tough
too
to
many.
watch.
I mean, it started as 8, and then it became 10, and I think they pretty much kept that number 10 for the bulk of the run.
Well, think about the name of the match, right? It's War Games.
Right.
And what happens in a war? The only way a war is over
You surrender.
is when you surrender. And
Yeah.
so that's really what they were trying to sell. I mean, this match is the epitome of spectacle wrestling.
Oh, yeah. I mean,
For
if
sure.
you come to pro wrestling for flashy, violent, chaotic blood wars, this is for you.
And it's even been said that some of the best War Games matches were the ones that were on the house show circuits that
Right.
you had to have been there to see it.
Well, I think it should be noted that this is the 5th War Games match in history, but it's not really.
It's like the
No,
It's
12th
like
or
the
13th.
20. It's the 24th. If you count all the house show War Games matches. So could you imagine being at a house show with War Games? That sounds incredible.
They didn't always announce they were going to do War Games.
Man.
They didn't always announce it. It'd be like, oh, the main event's going to be a 4-way tag match. And then you get there and the fucking War Games cage is there. You're like, oh, we're going to see War Games. And it's like, oh my God, Ric Flair's going to get killed tonight. And then Ric Flair magically wins because he's Ric Flair.
So I remember when I was just a young lad, just getting into wrestling, watching WWE exclusively because 2003, what else is there? There would be references to WCW. And, other than Sting and NWO, I just assumed WCW must not have had anything interesting going on. That's why they went under.
No, they went under because of Vince.
And when I hear about the War Games match for the first time, 2 rings, giant cage, always a bloodbath. For a long time, it was just this sort of mystery, right? It's just like, how the hell did they do that? I can't even envision it. And so there was no WWE Network. There was no YouTube, barely.
You had classics on demand.
Right. And my parents wouldn't let me get that. There was no WCW videotapes at the stores. There was just no way to watch it. And so finally, Network comes out. Here's my chance. Plug in War Games. Let's see what it's like. Does it live up to the hype?
I think it does. This match does.
This is a really interesting question. And Landon, I think you're probably going to give us some of your answer when you rank this match. I'm very, very curious on your opinion. And Paul, because I know Paul was so excited. So
I feel like this match lives up to the hype. Some of the later ones, not so much.
I can't wait to rank this because of how I think the two of you might differ. And then where I fall, and then where Brad falls, of course, when we hear his opinion as well.
Yeah.
But I do want to ask, since we're talking about does it live up to the hype, do we like the reiteration, the NXT version of War Games? How do we feel about it?
The first one I loved. The one where it was...
I think everyone they've done so far has been excellent.
You remember the one where it was like Sanity versus Undisputed Era versus... It was like 3 teams.
Yeah.
It was like insane. There was no roof.
Yeah.
That match was fucking amazing.
It's been really, really well done.
Yeah, I think so too. I'm curious how our listeners feel about War Games in the NXT version, because I think it's something that it's exciting, and I think everyone has been good, kind of like Landon says, but I know everyone doesn't feel that way, so would love to hear what you think. But as we get into War Games from 1992, I will remind everyone that on commentary, we get JR and Jesse Ventura, which we haven't heard in a while. It's been a while since we've heard him. WrestleMania 6, exactly. So super excited about that pairing. I think they do a really good job together.
They hated each other.
Yeah, that's what I hear. But they did well together. The referees, who you don't see too much other than flipping a coin, is Bill Alfonso and Randy Anderson.
Oh, head referee Randy Anderson.
Yeah, you gotta love that. You gotta love
his
that.
mullet.
So I do want to say that before the match starts, before the entrance starts, you hear a little bit of an interview sort of hyping up the match, and it's really Tony Schiavone and Eric Bischoff who are sort of hosting WrestleWar for the night, right? And they're kind of talking back and forth. And I think something that Eric Bischoff says that's really interesting about the strategy for War Games for the two teams, he says,
but what's going to happen to these 10 athletes when they find themselves inside that cage where their will to win as a team? What if that's overcome by their instinct to survive as individuals?
Wow.
Ooh.
Yeah, and I just think that's very interesting. And when you add in the Kolov side to that, add into that story with Sting and Kolov, I think it makes for some really, really good stories that you're anticipating going into the match.
Well, there were a lot of stories going on before we got to War Games. So it sort of all started, I would say, Halloween Havoc 91, right?
Yeah.
The formation of the Dangerous Alliance.
What I said before, that was literally like, Flair's out the door. We need a team to replace the 4 Horsemen. And that's the reason why Arn Anderson is there.
Well, yeah, Larry Zabisco and Arn Anderson destroy Barry Windham in a car. Destroy his hand in a car door.
Yeah, they smash it in the car door, yeah.
And shortly after this, Rick Rude would injure the leg of Sting, defeat him for the United States title at Clash of Champions. Past Sting, Rude would defend the U.S. title against Ricky Steamboat. You see all of these stories just sort of kind of line up to get these two teams together. So I'm thinking they had War Games 92 already planned.
Oh,
they
yeah.
knew who they wanted in the match.
Well, if you really look at like the bullet points, you can kind of see. I think around the time we get to Super Brawl, I think that's around the time you really start to see. Okay, they're really starting to put they're starting to. I'm like doing an antique switchboard here. Like they're starting to kind of put everything together.
Well, yeah. I mean, Barry Windham defeated Steve Austin for the TV title.
Mm-hmm.
Dustin Rhodes, tag team partners with Windham and Steamboat. Around this time, I mean, they are constantly having issues with the Dangerous Alliance.
Yeah, they've got this force to reckon with, and so some of the bigger stuff, a lot of it does happen on WCW television, which was kind of frustrating because it's really hard to pinpoint which episode you need to go watch. A lot of them they're going to be dated, but when you get around mid-March time, because there was nothing in between Super Brawl and this except for television, so they got like 3 months where they have to kind of compress all the storytelling into the 1 hour they have on Saturday night.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot going on. So there's a lot of the shows they record them all in bulk. So they probably recorded all this shit in like 2 weekends. But as you're kind of saying, like, it's just the Dangerous Alliance just running roughshod. Like, anytime one or two of their guys are in a match, they're all there, and they're always beating people down. And I think this match was officially announced around the time they had, like, a press conference.
Oh, don't you love a pro wrestling press conference?
They're always the best.
And the Dangerous Alliance is like, yeah, we won. And then somebody threw a drink. I think Rick Rude, he threw a drink in Sting's face. Like, what the fuck is going on? And that's actually when Nikita Kolov made his return. There's a big brawl, and he shows up, and it's like, I'm going to side with Sting. And it's like, can we trust this man? Oh, Nikita Kolov, he's a villain. He's a remnant of the USSR. Can we trust him? So that was kind of the big storyline.
Yeah.
We mentioned how he's the big wild card. But I'm trying to remember. I think it was April the 25th is when they officially said, all right, War Games, Sting Squadron versus the Dangerous Alliance. And like we had a lot of people in there, like Lex Luger is involved in somewhat. Big Van Vader gets involved. It's like this whole thing of they keep building all these different stories around different people.
They were really good at that in 92.
Because like the peak of this was like Sting beat Luger for the heavyweight title at Super Brawl. They wanted to get that belt off Sting. And that was another thing. Like, well, if we beat him in War Games, surely he'll lose that belt to anybody in this team. So War Games. Here we go, baby.
You know, one thing I've learned from WCW in the early 90s is if you want to be successful, you've got to be blonde.
Are you referring to how 6 people involved in this match have long blonde hair?
As this match is set to begin, JR says,
there will be a price to pay. There will be one team that wins and one team that loses. I know that's redundant, but when this one's over, it may be hard to tell the winners from the losers.
Sam, I mean, he's absolutely right. They all have blonde hair.
They're all bleeding
They're all
profusely.
bleeding.
That actually summed this match up very well.
yeah, I thought so too.
And I believe he says that again when the match is over.
How do we cover this match, though? This is just chaos.
Some of the best parts about this match are the things that are going on in the background. Yeah. I mean, I've seen this match several times, but like I watched it like twice in prep for this. The first time, paying attention to the camera. The second time, I'm like, I'm looking in the background because there's some interesting shit going on in this match.
If we're ready, Gary Capetta, take it away.
Let the War Games begin!
I love this because before the match starts, Paulie Dangerously has his whole team there with his giant piece of paper, and he's going, okay, if we win the coin toss, this is what we're going to do. Rude, I want you to get in there and make sure you beat them down in the corner so that whenever Zabisco comes in, we can do this. And then whenever Bobby Eaton comes in, it's like he has the whole match planned out, and they're running through their strategy.
I love that.
26-year-old Paul Heyman.
26?
Yeah.
26-year-old.
He's younger than all of us.
Paul Heyman is just in his element.
Oh, he really is. He's being loud and obnoxious and yelling at people with his giant cell phone.
Talk about people born to be in this business.
No kidding.
Yeah.
No kidding. But the match ultimately gets started, And representing the Dangerous Alliance, you have stunning Steve Austin. Representing the Sting Squadron is Barry Windham. These are two guys that have been feuding over the television championship, and they get this started in our first 5-minute period.
I just find that so interesting because we have the youngest guy on the Alliance versus the oldest guy on the Squadron.
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. I didn't even think about that.
Barry Windham has been wrestling since the 70s.
Yeah.
So at this point, he'd been in the business for almost 20 years.
And they work well together, too.
Yes.
Yeah, it's fast and quick, and the crowd is in it from the jump.
Oh, and they go hell for leather, like right away, start pummeling the shit out of each other. Opening 5 minutes, and Steve is bleeding because, oh, God, there's a great moment where like Barry like backdrops him into the cage and just starts ramming his head into the cage repeatedly. And then he comes off the cage, and all of a sudden Barry's like, yeah, I'm going to win this match. Why is the camera only on Barry? And then it cuts back. Oh, Steve bladed. Oh, shit, he's oh, God, Steve.
Yeah, I think maybe 5-10 minutes into this match, it's already absolutely nothing like anything we've covered so far.
Yeah,
I agree.
Steve's busted open within like 2 minutes.
I think TA and Blanchard might be the only thing that it reminds me of in terms of like gore, right?
But
in
imagine,
terms of like,
but now there's 5 Blanchards and 5 TAs.
Yeah, that's essentially what it is.
Yeah.
Because everyone, I mean, not everyone literally, but there's probably more blood that comes out of this match than TA Blanchard.
Yeah, I think so. But after that 5-minute period is up,
we get our coin toss. Thank God.
the Alliance wins.
They sure
Oh
do.
no, here comes Rick Rude coming in to back up his road partner.
Well, I think it's interesting to note that the Dangerous Alliance wins the coin toss because I don't know about you guys, but it's probably not very much of a face move, right? A baby face move to have 2-on-1 situations,
really
right?
isn't.
So it makes a ton of sense to set up the heels to constantly have the advantage throughout the onset of this match.
I just like it because now Steve and Rick Rude get to beat up Barry Windham. Steve and Rick Rude were road traveling pals the entire time they were both in WCW. In fact, if you ever listen to Steve Austin's podcast, he tells the story a million fucking times, but I laugh at it every single time he tells it. They would ride with Paul Heyman.
Oh, boy.
So Rick Rude would smoke a joint and pass out in the back seat while Heyman is driving and Steve's in the front seat drinking beer. And so Steve would just go, "Oh goddamn, pal! Oh goddamn! Oh goddamn, son! You're going too fast! Or goddamn, son, you're going too slow! Or goddamn this!" And then he said one time, Rick Rude's asleep in the back seat, sits down and goes, "For fuck's sake, Steve! Must you take the fucking Lord's name in vain?" And then he laid down and went back to sleep. And then Steve goes, "Well, goddamn, son, you're going to get hot about it." I love that story, but he told it a million fucking times.
That's really good.
God, Rick Rude.
He looks incredible. Surprise, surprise, right?
Chiseled from pure marble, only the finest marble from Greece.
Yeah, not too long after this, he would be he would have the big gold belt.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
And he held that belt for like 2 years.
Oh, he held the belt till he retired.
Yep. He wins it the end of this year. He doesn't lose it until like 94. And then he hurts his back.
Yep.
So Rude comes in the match and they start pummeling the shit out of Barry Windham. And I completely forgot that only the first period is 5 minutes. And now now it's like the Royal Rumble. We got 2 minutes. And before, Steve is busted open. He's been beaten down by Barry Windham, but they get the 2-man advantage. And god damn, Rick Rude is so fast and he's so smooth in the ring. And you really kind of look at a guy like that because he was a lot bigger than he looked. Everyone thought he was a small guy because, oh yeah, he had a match with like the Ultimate Warrior or he sent into the ring next to Hulk Hogan. Rude was huge. He just wasn't a giant.
Yeah, I think what you're kind of making me think about is just really how well put together. I know we made fun of how the rules are really detailed, but it makes itself a match that never overstays its welcome.
No, it doesn't. Because this match is 23 minutes long. And the only reason why it's 23 minutes long is because in order to get to the match beyond, there's 20 minutes. So and I'm like, oh, okay.
I am going to be the vocal minority.
Totally fine.
And say I disagree a little bit. I think there are moments of this match that are exciting.
Oh, so yes.
I love the Royal Rumble style where you have this timer and then here comes the next guy. That's really, really exciting. Don't get me wrong, but I feel like the way this match is built just doesn't speak to the reason I come to wrestling. personally, and I guess I can save this explanation for my ranking, but essentially I'm sitting here watching Larry Zabisco and Barry Windham and people that I know can do really, really great technical stuff throw punches. And it sort of makes me sad.
Well, you can't have a technical wrestling match when you've got 10 men in the ring. That's why the opening 1-on-1, 2-on-1, and 2-on-2, that's where you get all your technical wrestling, because that you can't do it after that.
So I ask, should you ever have 10 men in the ring?
I think WarGames works best with 8, but like Spencer said, this match is not very long. It's short enough that punches and kicks don't get overstayed because it's a short match.
But that being said, there are some really, really fun things to happen.
Oh, there's a lot. Like when next Steamboat comes in, and he has one of my favorite moments in the entire match. I'm not going to mention until we talk about favorite moments.
Yeah, no.
Whoa, Paul is saving his favorite moments for the end. It took 52 episodes, but it has happened.
Yeah, so Steamboat comes in, and then he just goes right after Rick Rude, and these two keep feuding through the summer. They go into feud at Beach Blast.
Oh yeah,
and they have their big Iron Man match, which people kept telling us you should review it, until I watched it.
Yeah, I mean, I've watched it recently. It's a match that happened, but I love Ricky Steamboat.
Yeah,
and I love that he is respected in this time period.
Well, because him, Zabisco, and Wyndham have all been around since the early 70s. And here they are in 1992, and they're really not that old. These guys are in maybe their late 30s, early 40s. They can still go. They still look like themselves. They haven't
Oh, yeah, Larry Zabisco looks like $100. I did say 100, but hey, he's there.
Larry Zabisco is the only guy in this match that does nothing until the very, very end. Like, you want to talk about punches and like nothing happening.
Man,
he
like
gold dust this match.
Ah, fuck you! I was gonna say it. And Goldust is in this fucking match.
If you've ever seen a Royal Rumble, you know what we're talking about.
Exactly. So Ricky Steamboat comes in. He dominates when he's in there for the first 90 seconds or so of his 2 minutes, which is awesome. And then in order to take advantage again of the 3-on-2, you've got Arn Anderson coming in for the Dangerous Alliance.
And he just causes havoc. He attacks everybody. And then he hits, I'll say it right now, the best spine buster in the business. Fight me.
I won't fight you.
He hits that spine buster on Steamboat, and it just, every time he does it, he did one recently, and it still looks that good.
He did, yeah.
60 years old, he can still do the fucking spine buster better than anybody else.
I think there's some really good spine busters out there that are not Arn Anderson's, but I do agree that it's probably hard to top.
It's hard, man.
Yeah.
I mean, maybe Ron Simmons, but Ron didn't do he just did the straight up spine buster. He didn't pick him up and spin him around.
Yeah. Arn comes in, hits that spine buster on Steamboat, like you said. He actually does a really a neat move with Rick Rude, where they do a double crab on Steamboat after the spine buster. They both take a leg and do the Boston Crab. So that was really nice. It is time for the Squadron to even the playing field again.
Hang on. There's one very, very important thing you didn't talk about. Rick Rude does a pile driver to Steamboat.
Hey, isn't that illegal?
Well, yeah, in Mexico.
So after the pile driver, Dustin Rhodes comes in to make it 3-3.
The natural Dustin Rhodes, the youngest man in this match.
And he's on fire.
Oh, he goes right after Double A too.
He does, and he eventually settles on stunning Steve, and he does an inverted atomic drop.
Yeah, but Steve's head hits the roof of the cage.
We talked about how low it is. Steve hits the cage. It's incredible.
And the way he reacted told me that he did not expect to hit the roof because he ain't selling there. He's legit going, "Oh fuck my head."
And he almost hits it again when Austin takes an electric chair from Dustin Rhodes.
That was terrifying because he's grinding. See, that's why he lost his hair. He got torn off by the cage.
His scalp just completely came off.
Oh man, he got scalped by the cage. Man, that's horrible.
I'm just envisioning a mop of blonde hair in the middle of the ring, like a whole bunch of blood.
To my point from earlier, why this is going on in the background, you see Barry Windham do a pile driver to Arn Anderson between the rings, and Arn's head hits in the middle, and then he sells his head is stuck.
Yeah, it's pretty funny.
Like I was saying, some of the best shit is happening in the background.
Isn't it in the NXT version? There's a metal grate in between,
grate right there.
Right,
yeah.
I think that's. It just looks very dangerous.
It's a lot safer.
Yeah, it looks so dangerous here, right? But our fourth member of the Dangerous Alliance to join the War Games is Larry Zabisco, who again, I mean, do we have anything to say right now about Larry Zabisco?
Larry Zabisco comes to the ring, and then Medusa climbs to the top of the cage, and she drops in the phone.
Yeah, Zabisco is the only person who gets in to get beat up. Like, he doesn't start strong like in the Rumble, right? You know, I'm talking about how you get in and you start beating people up.
You know, he gets in and gets pummeled immediately.
Yeah.
Larry Zabisco is in this match for a very particular reason, and we'll get there.
Yeah. But to your point, Medusa climbs up on top of the War Games cage.
Barefoot, by the way.
Yeah, it was really, really impressive.
She drops in the giant brick phone, and then Sting climbs up like, hey, you get down right now, young lady. You're in timeout. Because this is, Southern wrestling.
Medusa versus Sting, I would pay to see that.
I'd watch that match.
Are you gentlemen aware that Medusa has a match against Colonel Robert Parker?
Who?
Tennessee Lee.
Really?
Yeah, it's amazing. It's a comedy match, but it's really funny.
When did it happen?
Oh, it happened Uncensored 96.
No, I had no idea.
Yeah, it's a comedy match, but like...
I mean, it's women's wrestling in WCW. They pretty much saw all of those as comedies.
Intergender match. But what I like about it is that like they completely kayfabe that Tennessee Lee, a.k.a. Colonel Parker, is not a retired pro wrestler. He's just a guy from Kentucky. So at one point he locks up. Oh my God, he locked up. He knows how to do a lockup.
Oh, I do remember this.
And they have a clean break. And he shows off the guns that he doesn't have because he's older and fat. But they pop hard for him locking up. And I'm like, what is this? She does that bridge and German suplex on him.
Hell yeah.
And she she loses because he's too heavy and he breaks the bridge. But it's just like this really amazing, like they have this really fun comedy match in like 5 minutes that no one cared about, but it's like the best match of the night.
Well, we talked about Sting climbing to the top way before anyone climbed to the top of a Hell in a Cell, right? You get Sting up there with Medusa. And was Sting over, guys? Do you think Sting was over?
Well, he was literally over everyone else.
Hey!
Got him. That's my one per list.
No, I mean, he's just biggest pop of the night, maybe?
That's pretty damn big pop.
It's pretty crazy to think about how over Sting is in 92, knowing that he's going to be the franchise of WCW for the rest of the decade. Right.
Oh, yeah.
So in 92, for him to be that big was just really, really awesome.
Well, he's like the biggest name until they bring in Hogan, and then he's still the biggest name because nobody liked Hogan until the NWO. And then he joins the NWO, and then he just kind of becomes like emo Sting, and then the company goes out of business.
Yeah, that sums it up pretty good, I think. Yeah. But Sting is actually the next person to come into the match to make it 4-4. And watching it, I was thinking, well, man, Sting should be last, right? He's the heavyweight champion. He's got bruised ribs thanks to Vader. So, like, they should try to protect him. But it does make sense with what comes next, right?
Well, if he was heel, then he'd be the last man in. But he's babyface. He's the leader of the babyface team.
Yeah, so he wants to get in there and fight. I totally get it. And when he goes in, to Paul, what happens?
So he comes in the ring and he kind of pummels everybody, and then he military gorilla presses Rick Rude into the ceiling like 5 times.
Literally into the ceiling.
Like gets him up there and goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, scoop slam, bam, and then he fires up and goes woo! My only complaint about this match is there's not a single Stinger splash. Probably because he has bruised ribs.
Yeah, well, I do see him do the Scorpion Deathlock a couple of times, but yeah, no Stinger splash. Weird.
Oh, I don't think he could do it because the cage is flush with the ring. There's no space.
It'd be rough. You're right. I don't know if he can. You're right.
Even on like the middle turnbuckles,
he can do a hip attack
right there. But it wasn't his thing. His thing was to damn near jump over the top rope and do the Stinger splash.
After Sting backdrops Steve Austin
and
into
Austin,
the cell.
Grinds all the way down.
Yeah, and almost lands on his head, right, just from the backflip.
Almost goes through the side of the cage.
Yeah, almost goes through the cage.
After he does that backdrop, he starts grating Arn's face, and now Arn gets busted open. And so I think literally the only people not bleeding are Sting and Steamboat. Everybody else is busted open.
Yeah, so once you have this many people in the ring, it starts to get a little claustrophobic.
A little bit, but that's the whole point of the match.
I would hate to be the cameraman in there.
Oh my God, there's a cameraman in the ring.
There is.
Well, luckily for him, Shawn Michaels isn't in there either. So that would have been
safe.
Safe.
Yeah, no loss. There's going to be a lawsuit here.
it does feel like we're kind of breezing through these these 2-minute periods, but that's because they go really quickly. And so we're already down to our last 2 members to enter the ring and enter the match. And the last member of the Dangerous Alliance to come in is Bobby Eaton.
Oh, beautiful Bobby Eaton comes in, and he just picks apart everybody because he's fresh and everybody else has had the shit beat out of him. And he is just really... He's taking his time. He's waltzing over, elbow here, kick to the ribs, remember the turnbuckle because he's like, I'm fresh. And I'm hip. I'm what's happening.
And you're talking about the things that you want to pay attention to in the background. This is when you can start to see Rude and Zabisco starting to loosen the turnbuckle.
Oh, yeah. What's going to happen?
I completely missed this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Zabisco starts to undo it, and then Rude comes behind him, and they start like really undoing the screws. And this is the moment when the clock hits 0. Nikita Kolov enters that ring. What is he going to do?
Will he be loyal?
Well, you ask that question. The first person he attacks is Arn Anderson. And then he stands face to face with Sting. And all of a sudden, what's going to happen? You see Larry Zabisco and Bobby Eaton are going to hit Sting from the back. And Nikita pushes him out of the way, and then he takes the beating for Sting.
Arn, 2 former adversaries. Arn, he pushed Sting out of the way and took the bullet. Nikita pushed Sting out of the way and took the impact from Anderson and Austin.
I don't understand what the two of them were beefing about. Aren't they supposed to be teammates?
Oh, yeah. Kolov and Sting dominating this one ring with Austin and Anderson. It is deafening here in Jacksonville, Florida at WrestleWar 92.
It's a good moment.
And it answers the question that everybody was asking going into the match. So even though I was thinking maybe Sting should have come out, entered the ring last, having Kolov enter the ring last built that suspense even longer. And it made for such a big moment there at the end.
And he just starts pummeling everybody. And then him and Sting high five, they hug, and I'm waiting for like the crash zoom out to come high because, best friends. When they make the big announcement about the match beyond, it's, 2 minutes? Like we're saying before, it does not overstay its welcome. So Zabisco finally gets that turnbuckle free, and then he's got that big steel hook, and he's gonna just take Sting out. He misses, and he pummels Bobby Eaton right there in that left shoulder, and Sting just kicks it. Like, did Sting low blow him? Because those kicks look kind of low.
I think that I don't think it's a low blow. I think it's a couple of low kicks and a couple of overhand punches, but nothing necessarily.
Zabisco goes down and Sting locks in that arm bar.
Eaton goes down with a shattered shoulder. I mean, it had to have been, right?
Had to have been.
If you got hit in the shoulder with that steel hook like that and then putting an arm bar, you're done.
The way Eaton was selling that thing,
he sold it like it broke something.
And he surrenders.
Yeah, and it's just like, and the first thing I'm thinking of is, wait, Paul Heyman's on the outside, and I kept thinking of the WrestleMania 17 match between Benoit and Angle. It's like, Bobby Eaton is one of the best wrestlers in the business, but when my hero Sting locks in the armbar, he is forced to tap out. The first that popped in my head was that promo.
It is that promo.
I was just thinking about that. And so, Eaton surrenders because, submission or surrender. And the Stinger Squadron is victorious, and everybody immediately starts giving out to Larry Zabisco. Everybody's chewing him out.
Because he did nothing in the match except cost him the victory.
Yeah, it's his fault. It's his fault they lost. And I'm not mad at Bobby. Bobby has a separated shoulder and possibly some torn ligaments. But God damn it, Larry. You had one job, and you fucked it up, Larry. God damn it, Larry.
So Sting Squadron wins War Games 1992. Favorite moments?
Okay, my favorite moment in the entire match. Ricky Steamboat climbs to the top rope, grabs the roof, and then he does like a poised hurricanrana to Rick Rude.
Yeah, I think
easily.
That's it too. I think.
And then we mentioned the second one, which was Sting doing the military presses to the ceiling. And I'm like, I'm gonna wait till the end. I'm gonna follow the rules.
Innovation from the two of them, I think, have to take the cake here.
If someone's gonna innovate in a match, this is gonna be those two. And like I said, those two go on to have a storied feud for the next 3 or 4 months.
Right,
leads to the Beach Blast in a very, very. They had an Iron Man match. That's all I'm going to say about it.
So it is now time to rank this War Games match on our list of the greatest matches of all time. This will be entry number 52 on our list. And before Paul or Landon or myself, before we give you our thoughts and our ranking, we want to hear from our patron. We want to hear from Brad. So without further ado, Brad, tell me what you're thinking.
My name is Brad, and this is why I think that this is one of the greatest matches of all time. I was mostly a WWF fan in the late 80s and early 90s, so I didn't see this one originally until it actually came out in the WWE Network. And man, is this a bananas match. Here's my thoughts. Number 1, the star power. You had Sting, Rude, Dragon, young Steve Austin, and Dustin Rhodes, among others. Number 2, it was absolute chaos. The ring gets torn apart, everyone bleeds, and there's nonstop action. Number 3, they treated it like a real competition. One of my favorite little moments is when Paul E. Dangerously is reviewing his team's strategy mid-match. And number 4, that hot Jacksonville crowd throughout the match. You can't underestimate how important that is. So where does it rank? Well, I'll follow your lead and compare it to other matches. First, I was drawn to Canadian Stampede, but frankly, this was a better match. I next turned to the 92 Royal Rumble, with its interesting parallels with Flair being in WWF at the time. So that's why I think that this is the 36th best match of all time.
So long. See you, Brad.
All right, 2 things. 1, this guy gets it. This guy gets pro wrestling. 2, we're in the exact same wavelength because that's exactly what I thought about this match.
Well, he brought up something, Brad, and again, thank you so much for sending that in. The Royal Rumble. Because I was going to bring up before we started talking about the match was think about this year, 1992, right? In May, we have this 10-man match with almost exclusively Hall of Famers. And another match on our list from just a few months before is the Royal Rumble in 1992, which has, how many do you say? 15 to 18 Hall of Famers?
I think it was like either 17 or 18.
It was a ton of Hall of Famers in that match. So what a year in professional wrestling, whether you were Team WWF or WCW. I mean, just really incredible stuff that we're lucky to be able to get back and watch now. So that's absolutely a big reason why this match possibly deserves a spot on our list for sure.
And to piggyback off that, I think the only 2 people in this entire match that are not in the Hall of Fame are Nikita Kolov and Goldust. And that is not yet.
Right.
Because we know Dustin's going to go in. I think as soon as he retires from AEW, he's going to be in the Hall of Fame.
Landon, what did you think of Brad's thoughts?
Damn you, Brad. I went into this literally thinking I was going to say this match is 52 for me because it's not what I come to wrestling for. And that is a very selfish viewpoint in a list where we're trying to be as open-minded as possible and to take everyone's thoughts and feelings into consideration. But on my list, it would be 52. Brad, you broke this down better than I think any of us could have.
He really did.
And I mean, it 36 makes sense. So I think based on just my personal feelings, my original range, I was gonna be nice and give you guys a range to work in. Because that's how I operate. Is I y'all are gonna work in my range, and so my range was 48 to 52 originally.
Okay.
Because I think this match could edge out over RVD and Sabu versus Hayabusa and Shinzaki, but if you guys decide that 36 makes sense, I would be hard-pressed to argue against what Brad said.
Well, why I agree with everything he said, 36 is a little high. But I don't think it would be that far away. Now, you're right, he broke this match down to the point where it's hard to argue with everything he said, and I don't think you really can. I'm looking at what's in that range. Okay, maybe not quite 36, but I think 41. I think would be that's my lowest.
Okay, so 41.
41.
Paul. Okay,
yeah.
so 41. Now, Brad, again, I feel like you've listened to this show once or twice, right? I mean, you hit 3 things that you hit on are something that we talk about almost every single episode, and that's star power, how real and competitive it is, and the crowd. Yeah. Right, so all 3 incredible points, and Landon said this earlier. It's a spectacle, right? This match is a spectacle. So this is not always what you're looking for when you're coming into professional wrestling. You're absolutely right. So when I go to rank this match, I there is a ceiling. And it's a little low, just like the War Games cage.
Damn.
Right?
Damn.
So I'm going to say, the first thing that we thought of to compare it to was Canadian Stampede. I think it's better than that.
Yeah.
Because quite frankly, I don't remember anything about Canadian Stampede other than the crowd.
I remember Bruce Hart and Steve Austin tangling, and I remember all the hearts in the ring afterwards. Or in the entrances.
I remember some technical wrestling. That's all I'm going to say.
So I would go past Canadian Stampede. And I would probably end up, I wouldn't go as high as 36 either, although Brad, a very, very convincing argument. I think I would go probably 41 with you
41?
as well,
Okay.
Paul, right underneath Rock Hogan.
Yeah, so it's a little bit higher than your range of 40 to 52, but I don't want you to go, okay.
No, I get it. I think between the three of your arguments, I would be hard pressed to argue against that. So,
and
the
only reason why I knocked it down from 36, I was actually well on board with what Brad was saying. I agree with what you're saying, Landon. I watch wrestling because I want to see wrestling, and there's a lot in the opening, like 8 or 9 minutes, and then it does turn into just a bloodbath and a brawl, a very, very entertaining one. But I just couldn't in good conscience go, well, I'm not putting that above the clinic that was Cedric and Ibushi. Awesome and Tanaka, that's a guilty pleasure. And then the Jones-Rocco, which is just one of the best wrestling clinics I've ever seen in my life. And then part of me is like, man, I want to put it above Rock and Hogan, but that is the greatest crowd of all time. So that's the only reason why I'm putting underneath that is because that crowd was an 11 when this crowd was like a 9.5. That match only happened once. And even if it wasn't the greatest match in the world, it happened one time. It's still one of the biggest spectacles. This is one hell of a spectacle. But I don't think it's possible to out-spectacle icon versus icon. But Brad, oh my God, dude, thank you so much. That was amazing. You had me like ready to immediately jump, and I'm like, wait, let's take a step back and let's process this. So why I agree with 99.9% of what you said. We should talk. So at me on Twitter, whatever you got to do, or DM me. I want to run some things by you because I think you might be able to join my dangerous alliance.
So there you go. Match number 41 so far out of 52 of the greatest wrestling matches of all time. War Games 1992. Really a ton of fun to cover with you guys today.
Oh, yeah.
Really, really, really fun. I'm glad that maybe we pulled you off scraping War Games off the bottom of the barrel here on the list. But I think I feel comfortable, with where we wound up. So
I'm interested to see where the listeners are going to put it here at the end of the season.
I am too. I think it might move up a little bit, might move down a little bit, but I think it's going to stay in that same range within maybe plus or minus 5.
I think so too. I think that's really where it belongs.
Like I don't think it'll go higher than 36, but I don't think it'll go lower than maybe like 47, maybe.
I can agree with that.
Yeah, 47, 48.
If you want to be like Brad and send in incredible analysis and your ranking, all you have to do is be a Slammy Award winner on Patreon.
And you can do it on your own.
That's right. We let our patrons know prior to recording. We let them know what match is coming up. That way, if they want to send in feedback, and now we've had Storm and Brad do it, so thanks to both of those guys. If you want to be next, you can absolutely do that. Just get on Patreon with Last Match Standing.
You can't be first, but you can be next.
Smooth.
Because Storm did it first.
Smooth.
So until episode...
On theme, WCW. Hell yeah.
This is my era, damn it.
Until episode 53, I'm Spencer.
I'm Paul.
I'm Landon.
And this is Last Match Standing.